Why the hell is the CEO's fancy Italian espresso machine making that grinding noise again? I muttered, crawling behind the server rack with a flashlight clenched between my teeth and my master key ring jangling like a cowbell. That damn $3,000 coffee beast was wired into the same circuit as the emergency exit lighting, something I only discovered after the great caffeine blackout of 2019. Nobody documented that little electrical adventure, of course. Nobody but me ever documented anything around this place. But I knew because I remember everything. Name's Roy Patterson, 52 years old, and I've been keeping this building's heart beating for 23 years. Started here in January 2000 when I was 29, fresh out of the Navy Seabees with calloused hands and a toolbox that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Back then, this place was 3 floors of startup dreams held together with duct tape and determination. That Tuesday morning started like every other for the past 2 decades. Me unlocking the main utility room at 6:15 sharp, 45 minutes before the corporate types stumbled in with their $9 oat milk lattes. I'd been using the same brass master key since 2001, original Schlager, made back when they built locks to outlast the buildings. You oil the tumblers twice a year, maintain the strike plates, and that hardware will outlive cockroaches. Something these laptop warriors never figured out. The cleaning crew had stuffed paper towels down the men's room sink drain again. Someone from the marketing department left Thai food in the break room fridge over the Columbus Day weekend. The smell could knock a vulture off a roadkill buffet. Not technically my job, not in any contract I ever signed. But guess who scraped pad Thai noodles off refrigerator shelves with a putty knife and Lysol? This guy. In the Seabees, we had a saying, "The difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes a little longer." These days, I felt more like the building's white blood cells, working invisibly in the background, fighting infections, keeping everything healthy, only getting noticed when something went septic. The current CEO thought I was just Roy the maintenance guy, even though my business cards had said senior building engineer for 8 years. My email signature included my Navy service and technical certifications, but to him, I was still the guy who fixed toilets. My inbox was a nightmare. 312 unread emails from people who couldn't change a ceiling tile without calling for backup, half-marked urgent in red letters, like the building would collapse if they couldn't get their color printer working before lunch. I'd built communications networks in Fallujah under mortar fire. These people panicked when the Wi-Fi hiccuped. Things really went sideways when they brought in Ashley Stone as the new HR director 6 months ago. Fresh MBA from some private college, all corporate buzzwords and efficiency metrics. She once asked me where the main electrical panel was located. I told her, "Same place it's been since Clinton was president, sweetheart. Basement level next to the boiler room you've never seen." She didn't find that amusing. Now I know most folks listening to these stories don't hit that subscribe button. That's like showing up to a poker game without chips and expecting to walk away with the pot. Go ahead and subscribe. Keeps the stories coming and the justice flowing. Back to my situation. I didn't go to fancy business schools or wear ties that cost more than my truck payment, but I knew that building like a demolitions expert knows C4. Which pipes would rattle 2 hours before a thunderstorm hit. Which HVAC zone would overheat when the humidity climbed past 65%. Where the fire suppression system had that loose coupling on the 4th floor that would spray water if you looked at it wrong. I'd kept that company operational through power outages, burst pipes, HVAC meltdowns, and 4 different CEOs worth of revolutionary business strategies, and they just forgot. No performance bonuses, no recognition plaques, no handwritten thank you notes from the board. Just once, after I spent my entire Memorial Day weekend rebuilding the executive conference room's climate control before a crucial investor meeting, the old CFO handed me a protein bar and said, "You're a lifesaver, Bob. My name's Roy. Has been for 52 years. I stopped correcting them eventually. Wasn't trying to be the hero or anything. Just believed in doing the job right. Military habit. That lease agreement, the one that kept us renting prime downtown real estate for a fraction of current market rates, I helped negotiate that back in June 2001. The company had been operating for 18 months, still had more debt than revenue, and couldn't qualify for commercial credit if their lives depended on it. The founder, Bryce Holloway Sr., sat across from me at a Denny's booth and said, "Roy, if you don't co-sign this lease, we'll be working out of my garage until the bank forecloses. My wife's already threatened divorce if I bring one more server rack into the house." So I co-signed. Made sense at the time. These people were like family. Like most families, they eventually forgot who kept the house from falling down around their ears. You ever spend 23 years maintaining something and realize nobody notices you unless the air conditioning quits or there's a mouse in the supply closet? That was me. Invisible until something broke. Then suddenly I was everybody's dad and janitor rolled into one. God forbid the elevator made a weird noise. Then I was King Roy, master of vertical transportation and savior of the second floor. So yeah, I kept showing up every day, punctual as the atomic clock, reliable as gravity. Then came that Tuesday in October. Ashley from HR sent an all-staff email about strategic organizational restructuring initiatives. In corporate speak, that's like a funeral director saying someone transitioned to a better place. My gut went cold. I'd seen enough, downsizing to know the playbook. I'd helped 7 different guys clean out their lockers over the years. Good men with families, replaced by efficiency consultants and automation software. The smile, the folder, the apology that wasn't really an apology. I was next in line for the corporate meat grinder. The meeting invite hit my calendar at 4:47 p.m., right as I was replacing a burned-out ballast in the accounting department. Subject line, brief discussion. HR, no context, no agenda, just a calendar bomb dropped into my schedule like a hand grenade in a mailbox. I knew what was coming. 23 years of keeping their lights on, and they couldn't even give me the courtesy of a heads up. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the TV without really watching. Some rerun of a war movie, explosions and gunfire that reminded me of better days when problems had clear solutions. I thought about calling my daughter Sarah. She was finishing her nursing degree in Phoenix, working nights to pay tuition. Smart kid, inherited her mother's brains and my stubborn streak. But what was I going to tell her? That her old man got fired via corporate doublespeak? I walked to my spare bedroom and pulled out the filing cabinet I'd maintained since 2000. Navy habit, document everything, keep records, cover your 6. Top drawer, manila folder labeled building documentation, critical. Inside was every lease amendment, every permit application, every insurance rider I'd handled over 23 years. Most people throw that stuff away. Military guys keep it forever. I grabbed a beer and started reading. The original co-signing agreement from June 2001. Back then, Holloway Sr. needed someone with decent credit and a steady income to guarantee the lease. The company was burning cash faster than a California wildfire, couldn't get approved for a business credit card, much less a 5-year commercial lease in downtown. Just until we get established, he'd promised. 6 months, maybe a year. Soon as our revenue stabilizes, we'll get you off the hook. That conversation never happened again. Within 2 years, I was handling all the property management communications, renewals, modifications, insurance claims, city inspections. They treated me like their facilities department of one, but legally, I was still the primary lessee. They never bothered to transfer the lease to corporate ownership, just easier to let Roy handle it. I flipped through the amendments. 2003, expansion to include the 4th floor. 2007, renovation that added the conference rooms. 2012, HVAC upgrade that I designed and supervised myself. 2018, security system installation. Every single document had my signature as lessee representative or building contact. Then I found what I was looking for. Page 12 of the 2018 amendment, Section 7D. Lease renewal requires written notification to property management no later than 90 days prior to lease expiration date. My hands got steady, really steady, the kind of steady you get when incoming mortars stop and you realize you're still breathing. Current lease expired June 30th, 2023. Today was October 15th. They'd missed the deadline by 3.5 months. Not by a few days or even weeks. They'd blown past the deadline like it didn't exist. No certified letter, no email to the property management company, no panicked phone call about renewal terms. They were so busy playing corporate ping pong and having strategic alignment meetings that they forgot the most basic requirement of having a place to hold their meetings. I leaned back in my recliner and felt something I hadn't felt since my discharge ceremony in 1999. Control. Real control. Not the kind that comes from knowing which circuit breaker controls what outlet. The kind that comes from holding a loaded weapon while everyone else is walking around with water pistols. It wasn't just that they were about to fire me, it was how they were doing it. Like I was some disposable middle-aged guy who knew where the janitor's closet was. But see, I didn't just know where the janitor's closet was. I knew where everything was, including the legal landmine they'd been tap dancing on for 4 months. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Mike Torres, Local 146. We'd been friends since my first week on the job. He ran his own property management business now, but we still grabbed beers every month. Brotherhood doesn't expire when you change careers. Mike, it's Roy. You got a minute? Always got time for you, brother. What's going on? Nothing good. But it's about to get real interesting. You remember that lease situation from Oro 1? Long pause. Mike knew the whole story. He'd been there when I co-signed, warned me about getting too involved in other people's business. The one where you're still primary? Roy, tell me they didn't. They just scheduled my exit interview for tomorrow morning. Holy shit. They know you're on the lease? I smiled for the first time in 3 days. Not a happy smile. The kind of smile a demolitions expert gets when he finds the perfect place to plant charges. They're about to find out. What do you need? Name of a good property attorney. Someone who specializes in commercial lease law. I got just the person. Patricia Wells, downtown firm. Handled my incorporation paperwork. Straight shooter, knows the regulations inside and out. Want me to call her? Yeah. Set up a meeting for tomorrow afternoon after I get my walking papers. I hung up and walked back to the filing cabinet, pulled out every lease document, every amendment, every piece of correspondence with the property management company. 23 years of paperwork that nobody else bothered to keep track of. In the CBs, we learned that preparation prevents poor performance. These corporate hotshots were about to get a masterclass in military planning. I walked into that meeting the next morning, wearing my steel-toed Red Wings and the same Carhartt jacket I'd worn to every company meeting for 8 years. Navy habits die hard. You dress for the job, not the occasion. Ashley was already seated in conference room B, smiling like a car salesman who found your credit score. Next to her sat some lawyer I'd never seen before. Expensive suit, Italian shoes, clutching a manila folder like it contained state secrets. Guy probably made more in a month than I made in 6. Neither of them had ever crawled through a ceiling to trace electrical conduit or spent their weekend rebuilding a chiller unit. Roy, thanks for coming in, Ashley chirped, like I had a choice in the matter. We wanted to discuss some organizational restructuring. That phrase hit me like a sledgehammer to the solar plexus. I'd heard it 7 times before, helped other guys pack their toolboxes after getting the same corporate doublespeak. I knew the script by heart. First the smile, then the folder, then the fake apology. We're pivoting toward a more technology-focused operational model, she continued, reading from notes like she was ordering lunch. Streamlined facility management through digital solutions. I stared at her. That direction wouldn't happen to include me, would it? Silence thick as motor oil. Then a gentle push of the folder across the conference table. Inside was a severance package with more fine print than a pharmaceutical commercial. 3 months' pay, health insurance through December, and a non-disclosure agreement thicker than a phone book. The termination letter didn't even get my title right. Called me Roy Patterson, maintenance technician. 23 years of engineering solutions, and they couldn't be bothered to read my business card. We'll need your building access credentials and keys today, the lawyer added, emotionless as a GPS voice. Also, any company property in your possession. I took a breath deep enough to inflate a basketball, reached into my jacket and set my access card on the table like a poker chip. Then came the keys. All 23 of them, each labeled in my own handwriting. Master keys, utility room access, emergency shutoffs, roof access. The physical control of their entire operation, accumulated over 23 years of being the guy who fixed everything. You sure about this? I asked, looking directly at Ashley. She gave me that HR expression, sympathetic but manufactured, like a greeting card condolence. It's nothing personal, Roy. Sure it isn't, I muttered, standing up. Just remember, you can't terminate what you never understood. I walked out before I could say something that would void my severance. The parking garage felt 10 degrees colder than usual. I sat in my F-150 for 15 minutes, engine off, just processing. 23 years of sweat equity, dismissed like expired milk. But instead of driving home, I headed downtown to Patricia Wells' law office. Mike had set up the appointment for 2 p.m. Her office was on the 18th floor of a building I'd actually helped wire back in my contractor days before joining the company. Small world. Patricia was maybe 45, sharp as a scalpel, with the kind of confidence that comes from winning cases other lawyers wouldn't touch. Her office walls were covered with commercial property certifications and a Navy Distinguished Service Medal in a frame. "Mike says you've got an interesting lease situation," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I pulled out my folder. Every document from 2001 to present, organized chronologically like a military briefing packet. 23 years ago, I co-signed a commercial lease. Company just fired me this morning. They don't know I'm still the primary lessee. She opened the folder and started reading. Her eyebrows climbed higher with each page. "This is unusual. Most co-signers get released within a few years. You're telling me they never transferred this to corporate ownership? Never even tried?" I handled all the property management communications, renewals, inspections, everything. They treated me like their facilities department, but legally, I'm still the guy holding the paper. Patricia flipped to the renewal clause. 90-day written notice required. When did their current lease expire? June 30th. Nobody sent notice. She looked up sharply. It's October 15th. They're 3.5 months past expiration with no renewal notice filed? Exactly. They've been operating as month-to-month tenants without realizing it. And since I'm the lessee of record, you can terminate with 30-day notice. She leaned back in her chair, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. This is either the stupidest oversight I've seen in 20 years of practice or the most beautiful revenge setup ever constructed. Little of both. What are my options? She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Option 1, terminate their tenancy, force them to vacate. Option 2, renegotiate lease terms at current market rates. Option 3, sell your lease position to a third party. What's current market rate for that space? Downtown Class A office? Probably $28 per square foot annually. They're paying what, maybe $12, $11 or $50? It's a 15,000 square foot space. Patricia did the math. $172,500 annually versus $420,000. They're saving $250,000 a year because of your signature. For the first time in 24 hours, I smiled. And they just fired the guy saving them that money. Roy, I have to ask, why didn't you ever get yourself removed from this lease? Most people would have demanded release years ago. I thought about that. Military mindset, I guess. You sign something, you honor it. They were like family back then. I trusted them to do the right thing eventually. Family doesn't fire you via corporate restructuring. No, they don't. Patricia pulled out her phone. I'm calling Meridian Property Management right now. Need to verify the lease status and your authority as primary lessee. The call took 20 minutes. Patricia put it on speaker so I could hear the property manager confirm everything. No renewal notice filed. Lease converted to month. Roy Patterson still listed as primary contact and responsible party. Mr. Patterson, the property manager said through the phone, we've been trying to reach someone about the renewal for months. Sent notices to the company address, no response. That's because they fired their facilities manager, Patricia replied. Mr. Patterson is exercising his right to terminate the month-to-month tenancy. Formal notice will be filed tomorrow. After the call, Patricia looked at me seriously. Once we file this notice, there's no going back. You sure you want to burn this bridge? I thought about 23 years of being invisible, of being called Bob instead of Roy, of watching MBA kids dismiss decades of experience as old-school thinking, of getting fired via corporate doublespeak after keeping their operation running through everything from power outages to pandemic shutdowns. The bridge burned this morning when they handed me that folder. I'm just making sure they see the smoke. Patricia filed the termination notice the next morning. Certified mail, electronic filing, the full legal treatment, 30 days for them to vacate the premises. I wore my dress uniform to the property management office, navy blues with ribbons. Figured if I was going to end a 23-year chapter, might as well do it with some dignity. The notice hit their reception desk at 10:17 a.m. on Thursday. Problem was, they'd laid off the regular receptionist 2 weeks earlier as part of their operational efficiency improvements. Some temp named Jessica was covering the front desk, probably making $15 an hour and counting minutes until lunch. She looked at the official county envelope, saw legal notice stamped in red letters, and figured it was junk mail. Tossed it in the recycling bin next to a broken printer and yesterday's takeout containers. Even had she opened it, she wouldn't have understood what she was reading. Meanwhile, upstairs in the executive conference room, the leadership team was having their weekly strategy session. Whiteboards covered with buzzwords like synergistic solutions and paradigm disruption. Young Bryce Holloway, the founder's son who'd inherited the CEO position at 34, was presenting his vision for leveraging artificial intelligence to optimize facility management workflows. They were so busy disrupting their own industry that they missed the disruption heading straight for their front door. I spent that Thursday cleaning out my personal tools from the utility room. 23 years of accumulated equipment, multimeters, wire strippers, specialty wrenches I'd bought with my own money. Stuff that made the difference between a 10-minute fix and a 3-hour service call. Let them figure out how to maintain a building with a smartphone app and good intentions. Mike Torres stopped by around 3 p.m. "How you holding up, brother?" "Better than expected." "You know that feeling when you're carrying something heavy for so long you forget it's heavy? Then you finally set it down?" "Yeah, that's where I'm at." Friday morning, Bryce found the notice. Someone from accounting mentioned seeing a legal document addressed to current occupants, and he went digging through the recycling. Took him 20 minutes to understand what he was reading. Another 10 to realize who Roy Patterson, primary lessee, was. His phone call came at 8:43 a.m. I was at Mike's office, helping him review blueprints for a warehouse renovation project. Real work, solving real problems with practical solutions. Roy speaking. "Roy, this is Bryce Holloway. We need to talk immediately." I put him on speaker so Mike could hear. "Go ahead, Bryce. This eviction notice, this has to be some kind of mistake. You can't just kick out an entire company." "Actually, I can. And I did. Mathematics is pretty clear on this one." "You're the maintenance guy." "Was the maintenance guy. Now I'm the building owner's authorized representative exercising contractual rights you forgot existed." Silence. Heavy breathing. Probably his blood pressure hitting stroke territory. "The board is freaking out. We've got investor meetings next week. This makes us look completely incompetent." "Bryce, let me save you some time. You are completely incompetent. Difference is, now everyone's going to know it. We can negotiate. Compensation, recognition, whatever you want." I looked at Mike, who was grinning like he'd won the lottery. What I wanted was respect. What I got was a severance package. What you get is 30 days to find new office space. This is extortion. No, son, this is consequences. Extortion would be if I asked for money to make this go away. I'm not asking for anything except that you honor the contract you signed. We'll fight this legally. With what lawyer? The one who didn't catch this in your contract review? Good luck with that. I hung up before he could respond. Mike was shaking his head, still smiling. Navy Seabees, man. Y'all don't screw around. We build things to last, and when we tear them down, they stay down. The next 3 weeks were pure entertainment. I drove by the building twice just to watch the chaos. Moving trucks every day. Executive assistants crying in the parking garage. Bryce himself throwing boxes into his BMW like he was loading sandbags for a flood. They found temporary space in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Rent was $38 per square foot, more than triple what they'd been paying. No conference rooms, no executive parking, and the air conditioning sounded like a helicopter with engine trouble. The real satisfaction came 2 months later. Summit Financial Group moved into the old space, signed a 5-year lease at market rates. Professional operation that actually read their contracts before signing. They sent me a thank you card for facilitating the space transfer. I kept my original building key on my keychain. Not because it opened anything anymore, but because it reminded me that sometimes the best revenge is just letting people discover what they threw away. Patricia helped me negotiate a finder's fee with the property management company, 10% of the first year's rent difference, enough to fund my retirement and Sarah's final semester of nursing school. These days, I run my own facility consulting business. Turns out 23 years of keeping buildings operational is valuable experience when you're not being taken for granted. My clients treat me like the expert I am, not the invisible guy who fixes things. The building still stands downtown, humming along with new occupants who appreciate good work. And somewhere in a strip mall office, a former CEO is probably wondering why his fancy coffee machine keeps making that grinding noise. Some lessons cost more than others. This one cost them $250,000 a year. Thanks for sticking around for the whole story. Subscribe if you want more tales of workplace justice served cold. Sometimes the best revenge is just being patient enough to let people hang themselves with their own rope.